Tottenham, Sandro Tonali. That's the understanding, that's the story. Then, more to mention after this Tonali story is also about Matheus Fernandez. Because in this situation, there are two clubs pushing from England and an idea from Spain. He's an idea for Real Madrid because Matheus Fernandez is Portuguese and Jose Mourinho indicate his name as one of the options considered in midfield by Real Madrid. We said about Enzo and more players, but Matheus Fernandez is another name mentioned by Jose Mourinho 10 days ago in that meeting Tuesday night last week, not this week, in Madrid with the most important people in Real Madrid management team. But from England, the clubs are way more aggressive financially. They want to do the deal as soon as possible. My understanding is that Manchester United are pushing in talks with the agent of the player and are also pushing in talks with West Ham to try find a solution. So Manchester United are on it. They also have an interest in Crysencio Summerville, the winger from West Ham. So Man United keep asking about Summerville and keep working on a deal for Matheus Fernandez. Tottenham, in a separate story from Tonali, are in conversations with the agent of Matheus Fernandez. Tottenham made direct contact with the agent of the player, and so Tottenham have an interest in Matheus Fernandez. Now, let's see what's going to happen, because Tottenham are calling, Manchester United are negotiating, Tottenham are very focused on Sandro Tonali, but as I told you, Matheus Fernandez is a separate story. So that's the situation as of now. And then, don't forget that Manchester United are also calling for Crysencio Summerville over the recent days and weeks. Mickey van de Ven at the club, let's see what happens with Romero, so for sure, several movements, and so now a decision to make with Luka Vučković. To clarify again on the situation of Cuti Romero, many of you asked me, with Cuti Romero and Manchester United, we had big links, big stories coming from Argentina. Guys, I can guarantee that Manchester United didn't make any approach to Tottenham for Cuti Romero. There are other clubs working on a deal for Cuti, so there is interest in Cuti Romero, and there is a serious possibility Cuti Romero leaves, but at the moment, Manchester United, Cuti Romero is not something really concrete. They asked about the situation of Romero a few months ago, not in June, not even in May, just to understand the situation, and that's it. Then, if United will arrive to the table, I will let you know. But my understanding is that the priority of Romero, in case of Tottenham exit this summer, would be to try a different chapter in another country, not in England, in terms of preference. Then we will see what happens there. So we said about Vučković, we said about Romero, we also have to mention news about Barcelona. Talking about centre-backs, Andreas Christensen, verbal agreement done for the new contract of the Danish defender, still waiting to sign. So at the moment it's a verbal agreement, shaking their hands. So Christensen ready to put pen to paper on a new contract with Barca. The reports in Spain were about
Manchester United's transfer plans are starting to take shape, and while much of the attention has been focused on Matheus Fernandez, another name is quietly beginning to generate serious discussion behind the scenes. That name is Crysencio Summerville. The West Ham winger is now being linked with a move to Old Trafford, and if there's any truth to these reports, it could tell us a lot about the direction Ruben Amorim wants to take this Manchester United team. When people think about United's problems, they often point to the midfield or defence first. But one of the biggest issues last season was the lack of consistency in the final third. There were games where United dominated possession but lacked the pace, creativity, and unpredictability needed to break down stubborn defences. That's where a player like Summerville comes into the conversation. What makes Summerville so attractive is his ability to create chaos for defenders. He loves taking players on, driving into dangerous areas, and forcing opponents into uncomfortable situations. Modern football is becoming increasingly structured, which means players capable of disrupting that structure are worth their weight in gold. Summerville is one of those players. The interesting thing is that West Ham only recently invested heavily in him. They see him as part of their future, not someone they are eager to sell. That immediately raises questions about whether a deal is realistic. Manchester United may admire the player, but admiration and negotiation are two very different things in today's transfer market. This is where Fabrizio Romano's reporting becomes a talking point. Romano has mentioned United's interest in several attacking players recently, including Summerville. While there's nothing wrong with reporting interest, the problem is how these updates are often interpreted online. The moment a player is described as being on the list or appreciated internally, many fans begin acting as though a transfer is just days away. The reality is much less dramatic. Top clubs monitor dozens of players every transfer window. Scouts watch them, analysts assess them, and sporting directors discuss them. Most of those players never receive an official offer. That's the part that often gets lost when transfer stories start gaining momentum on social media. From a tactical perspective, however, Summerville would make a lot of sense. Amorim likes aggressive attackers who can stretch defenses and create 1-versus-1 situations. Summerville's direct style would give United something different from what they currently have. He isn't the type of winger who constantly recycles possession. He wants to attack, challenge defenders, and make things happen. The bigger question is whether United are prepared to spend the kind of money West Ham would likely demand. West Ham are under no pressure to sell, and Premier League clubs rarely offer discounts to direct rivals. If United decide to pursue this deal seriously, it could become one of the more expensive moves of the summer. For now, supporters should view this as a situation worth monitoring rather than a transfer that is close to completion. The interest appears genuine, the player fits the profile United need, and the tactical logic is easy to understand. But until official talks begin, Crysencio Summerville remains exactly what he is today, an exciting name on Manchester United's shortlist and a player who could become a major story as the transfer window unfolds.